Hello everyone, Darren Gabbard here with 345 Auction. How are you? We are continuing with the Bagale collection auction, the series that is taken from the collection of Dr. John Bagale. He was a physician here in Pueblo, Colorado for many years, several decades in fact, and he was a passionate collector of German historica. Mostly, he focused on the military aspects of World War I, or pre-World War I, World War I, and World War II Germany. But he also had segments of his collection that were, let's say, military adjacent. Now, these two books are by the same man, Dr. Paul Wolff, and they are his picture essay of the 1936 Summer Games in Berlin, Germany. And of course, that was a very famous Olympics where we had Jesse Owens and a couple of other people, and Hitler was there, and it was a huge spectacle, of course. And Germany put a lot of effort into making it look beautiful, and it was. I mean, it was a gorgeous Olympic Games. And these two books are a collection of Dr. Wolff's pictures. Now, here's the interesting thing. I had no idea who Dr. Wolff was before I found these two books. And I would have considered myself to be pretty decent historian of the history of photography, maybe not in Germany, but I would have at least known someone who shot such beautiful work in Germany with Leicas. Now, when we think of the most prominent Leica shooter in the 20s, the 30s, and even through World War II, we would always put Henri Cartier-Bresson right at the top, and then we would struggle to think of who was going to be second. But Dr. Wolff shot nothing but Leica, and he was a very early adopter. In fact, I've read where he might have had some of the fabled Leica prototypes, but he did shoot Leica, and he shot things that you would never think a 35mm camera in that era would have been capable of shooting. Most professional, let's put that in quotes, professional shooters shot with a much larger format than 35mm. And when Leica came out with their 35mm camera, it was essentially to give people a camera that was smaller, more portable, easy to hold in the hand, and easy to operate so that you could get nice clean pictures, but with quality optics, because Leica was first and foremost an optics company. But the thing is, the 35mm frame is very small, and that piece of film, when most of the printing that you did with, let's say, the professional film, which was much bigger, was a contact print. You would place the negative directly on the paper and then shine the light through, and then the size of your print was the size of your film. And 35mm film was very small. Now, you did have enlarging processes for film back in the day, but they were very complicated and it was very expensive. It wasn't like we have today where everybody can get one. And certainly Leica wanted to get people interested in shooting with a 35mm format, knowing that they could expand their small frame into, let's say, something along these lines, maybe like an 8x10, and do it with very good results. And here's the thing, Dr. Paul Wolff's work was so beautiful and so consistent that Leica heavily relied on his work and took it around the world to show people just exactly what you could do with 35mm film. So he was well known at the time. His work was well known at the time. And I'll show you some of the work that he has in here in just a second. And one of the reasons why we don't see him or see his work so much, and we're not really familiar with him as other Leica shooters, is that all of his work was destroyed late in World War II. He lived in Frankfurt, Germany, and in 1944 an Allied bombing raid destroyed his house. And while Dr. Wolff was a prolific shooter, and he had tens, if not hundreds of thousands of individual shots, and the prints that he had made, all of that was destroyed. He didn't save anything. He couldn't protect it, or at least he didn't work to safeguard his work, and it was destroyed. Now the thing is, Henri Cartier-Bresson was very specific in making sure that his best work pre-war was saved in a safe place so it wouldn't get bombed and the Nazis couldn't get to it. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why we think of Henri Cartier-Bresson as the preeminent Leica shooter. Quite frankly, I think that Dr. Wolff would have outclassed him had we been able to see his work after the war. Dr. Wolff died in the early 1950s, so just a few years after World War II, after all of his life's work had been bombed out. Now, Dr. Wolff was kind of a pioneer with the 35mm format. He shot commercial campaigns. He was very famous for shooting print ads for Audi and Opel, car manufacturers and whatnot. And they were beautiful, beautiful pictures for the ads. And he did it, again, with a 35mm format, as opposed to, let's say, a 120 or even a 4x5. Actually, here, let me see. This is a 4x5 negative. And here is a strip of 35mm film. You can see the difference, right? This is one frame out of the 35mm, and here is the 4x5. And as professional shooters went, they would almost always use the 4x5 or at least the 120. Now, Dr. Paul Wolff, as I said, shot nothing but Leica, and at the Olympics, he went and he made some very famous pictures. Let me show you one that is possibly one of my favorites. Certainly the one that I knew of, but didn't know that it was his. I'd never seen the attribution. Let's see. I mean, look at that. It's just gorgeous. Oh, come on. I know it's here someplace. There we go. As far as sports photography in 1936 at the Olympics goes, this right here is possibly one of the most famous pictures out of those games. Jesse Owens, and I believe his name is pronounced Luz Long, L-U-Z. In German, I don't know exactly how you would pronounce it. Both of these men did long jump. Obviously, during the Olympics in 1936, Jesse Owens won the gold, but Luz came in less than 10 centimeters behind him for the silver. Both of these men became friends at the Olympics, and they were friends for many years after the war. In fact, I remember reading that Jesse Owens was the best man at Lutz's son's wedding. And here was Dr. Wolff on the scene taking this beautiful picture. Now, I think there are like 111 photos in here, and you get it all over the place. You've got diving. And here's Leni Riefenstahl right here as well, doing some of her movie work there. Let's see. But just stunning, really. And considering that he had a Leica, take a look at this one right here. You know, here's where the runners are just in the starting blocks and they're starting off. It's a beautiful piece. So Dr. Wolff, all of his work was destroyed. All of his negatives were destroyed. And because he did all of his own printing, if a publication, if a magazine or a book like this needed to have photos, he would print them himself in whatever size they needed. He would send them to the publication, and when they were done, sometimes they might send him back. There are very few prints that Dr. Wolff made that are still in existence. Most of them got bombed, of course. And we have no negatives. There are no negatives from Dr. Wolff. And virtually the only way that we can look at his work is in a book like this. So if you are a hobbyist in photography, if you are a collector of photographic history, then I think that this book would be something that would appeal to you. It certainly appeals to me. It is such a rare book, and these are both in excellent condition. And I do have the German version, and then I have the English translation. If you would like to bid on these books, I will put a link below the video window And you can look at these books, and if you have never registered, or if you've never bid with 345 Auction before, you will have to register with us. And once you've done that, you can bid in any future auction that we have, including any of the Bagale collections. And if you are a bibliophile, we're just getting started with his library. And trust me, folks, there's some beautiful books in his library. Well, I've talked enough. Again, this is coming up. This is going to be in session number 4. It's going to be August 16th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We are going to have interest for this book from around the world. So if you would like to bid on it, good luck.